Hey everyone, Mike Katz with 7 Points Capital. Quick takeaway for today. Looking at the SPYs, it looks like we had gapped down, but then it was just off to the races pretty quickly. The market feels, I don't know what it feels like because we've had these types of strong closes in the past, and then we gap down on news the next day. So because we are very news driven and very headline driven right now, it's tough to make a call or get a feel for which way the market wants to go. But we did have a nice pullback here, some good action on this pullback. And then from day to day, I've been doing okay with the SPYs, just trying to find spots to join what's going on, and that's been okay. So looking at today, I was mainly focused on BABA. So before I discuss any trades, this earnings season has been a little bit slower for me, and I've been trying to regroup and refocus and do a lot less. So it's kind of in line with what I've been doing. I've been trying to pick a name or two or three and then just try to focus on that as opposed to just keep going and bouncing around and doing a whole lot. So I think I've been doing a pretty good job at just sticking to a few names and focusing on what I think I have edge in. And then today was basically BABA I was in. It was an earnings play, and it seemed like it had some good range pre-market. And there's also the China news that's going to be causing big moves. So I figured this is probably worth checking out. And looking at BABA today, we can see that this thing had pre-market a really big spike, and 160, 183 is where we kind of topped out, and then a sharp drop. So I was just looking to join trend in the morning. Once we opened, my objective was I want to see which way things want to go and try to join that, and then let the trade work and just let it maybe trade around the core a little bit, but let the trails take me out. That way, if I'm in a stock that's really going to move, and BABA is a symbol that could really move, this thing can have a $5, $10 move pretty easily. I want to be able to stay with it, and that's kind of what I was shooting for here. So let's look at it. So let me see. Let's zoom in a little bit. Oh, no. Go this way, and then we'll zero into this stuff. So if you guys look here, we could see that we had the big spike. This is not the pre-market spike. This is up to 179-ish, and then a pretty big drop. This is right on the open. And then I'm watching closely. I still don't have an indication. I know that 183 was a pre-market high. We had a sharp drop from there. And then here, I'm looking at some pre-market action, not much to go off of. So let this thing settle in. Let it put in some sort of a range. Let it put in some sort of a lower high, lower low, higher high. You guys get the idea. So basically, we got this nice pullback, retraced pretty much the whole move. So if this was going to take off to the upside, once you get a move up, if you're long, you don't want to see this thing come all the way back to where it started from, right? You might see it come back down to here and then start to base and then go again to the upside. The fact that it retraced the whole move tells me that this move is just noise and there wasn't really any strength afterwards. So it comes all the way back down, still not doing anything, and then it looks like it's shooting up again. And then what I want to see is can this thing make it back up to the high of the day? And if it can, then I might just look for a pullback for a higher low and then head higher. Or since this thing couldn't make it back up to the highs, put in a few candles on the sideways, and then it looks like it's starting to curl down again, I start getting to work. So I quickly put some on, risking off of, what was I risking off of? Right here, 177.50. And then quickly get a nice drop. And this is still, minutes after the open. So I know that I can have big moves that don't necessarily result in a trend. It's just a lot of volatility. So I want to try to trade around a core at that time. So cover some into the dip. And this is where routes really come in handy. I was able to, this is a spready stock and it moves fast. And I was able to get some nice midpoint prints at that point. and it didn't go much lower than there. You know, if I put out a bid and then, you know, I display some size, then this thing's going to run away and it's going to shoot up. I'm not going to get my fill. But being able to put in a midpoint order and let it work it there, I got some pretty nice fills there. And then got a quick bounce, and I basically reshorted it near 176. Just whatever I covered here, I covered, I think it was a little more than a third, close to a half. Covered some here, reshort that same piece back here, still risking off of this level. And you might say, Katz, why are you doing that? Well, I'm doing that because if I don't cover down here, my stop has nowhere to move to. My stop has to still be here. So I'm not comfortable giving it that much space, right? Especially right on the open when I know there's a lot of volatility, there's a lot of two-way action. So I'm better off taking a piece and then still giving it the proper space. And then it gives me a bounce, puts them back on near the figure, 176. And then as you can see, this was also a midpoint fill and not much, not many prints after that on the upside. So we've got some pretty good routes that allow us to trade these high beta stocks that are moving and are somewhat spready, and we're able to get some pretty good fills with some of those routes. So this was another example of that. And then again, drops, cover half here between these two prints, cover half, and then again try to reshort the bounce. But at that point, I was already moving my stop to above this level here, and I got stopped out. So this ended up being, I believe it was a 1 hour win because of the trades around the core, because I was able to scalp a little bit around. Otherwise, it would have been a break even, as you guys could tell. So that's the benefit of being able to trade around a core. If it kept going, I was definitely going to let it keep going and stay with it, but it just did not want to. So I got out. And then the way I see this is, again, the way this was like a sharp move up and back down, usually you're not going to get another move back up. Well, the same thing we had here. We had a sharp move down, and then we came back all the way and we retraced the whole move. So that's like a V bottom, right? Same, it's pretty much the inverse of this. A lot of times when I see that, the next move is not going to make a lower low. So what I was watching here is, can this thing stay above unchanged? Can it kind of consolidate and not get back to the bottom of the range? If that's the case, then maybe we have a potential to, you know, get long and then shoot for that, you know, pre-market highs, which was at 183. And that's kind of what I was targeting. But, you know, I got long here, and then you see the move up. I was versing this area here, moves up, comes back. And this is something that most people can't do, right? You get a move in your favor, and you want to try to nail the first curl down and get out. Well, I just gave it space. I want to see if it comes down to here and stops me out, oh well, right? But I got to give it some space and see if it wants to come in, make that higher low, because it looks like it's trying to make that higher high here. So it did that. Once we cleared this area here, 176.60 on this candle, then I can trade versus here, right? Versus the low of this candle. So once we get above, I'm able to do that. Pushes up, my stop's down here, get a pullback. I want to add on that pullback. Still versing here, and then pretty nice move up again. And this time we come in and we test the morning high. I was able to nail this here with a pretty nice exit. Again, midpoint, really good route. Able to get a pretty nice fill there whenever I decided like maybe it fails here at the high. So that's a nice fill there. And then I was buying it back into a dip into this support. So a little bit of a scalp there. And then now that we're above this high here, then my stop is below here. And you could see that's pretty much where I got stopped out. So this one ended up being another half hour. I don't think it was 1 hour. It was about a half hour to 1 hour gain. And then it shook me out. I basically got out, and, I think I did a good job of getting out here, because it ended up, even though it bounced, it ended up going lower. I would not want to sit through this. And then I kind of lost interest in it, and it started trending upwards. So I missed a pretty nice move to the upside. And then got a the next setup at 180. So let's look at 180 right there. 180, huge topping tail right at the figure, and a pretty big reversal bar in a 5-minute, which is a lot more significant than the 1-minute. And this was an anomaly. We could see, based on, these candles here, and, it failed right at the previous high. So I took a short here and started getting more aggressive when it worked. And let's see the fills here. You could see that here, right when it started looking like it's coming back. It can't hold that 180. Started put some on, and it worked. Put some more on, and then just sat tight, risking off of this level, risking off of here, and then when it started, the bounce. So the bounce up can either happen one of two ways. It can happen in terms of price action to the upside or time. The longer it takes to bounce, then the more likely it is that it's not bouncing, right? So we could see it took what is like about 20 minutes, half hour for it to go sideways instead of back up, right? So that tells me that it's ready to go. When it's starting to curl back down, bam, hit it again. And this time I'm risking off of this here. Why here? Because we couldn't get above there. And if we're curling back down, then we could potentially have a fail, a lower high, and now a lower low. And now I just trim some down here and trim some more here near the close. And then I have about half left for after hours, but I'm also hedged with an options position. And I won't get into too much detail on that, but in the money on this one, I'll be taking this one home. So that one looks good. So BABA was really good to me today, even though I had, 1 hour here, about half an hour here. And then let me think, this one I believe was, looks like it's about 2 to 3 hour winner here. So this one was pretty good. So that's my goal right now. I'm trying to do less. I'm trying to focus on what is working, and just get out of here and make a couple of bucks every day. And I got to say, it has been a little bit frustrating. Just, not seeing a whole lot of follow through. And then, the gaps in the news and the headlines midday, and China this and China that. And then Trump says something, and then China says something. And before you know it, there's a lot of, spiky action. And it's very tough to trade in that environment, at least the way I like to trade. So it has been a little bit difficult, but just trying to do less. And that's going to be my plan going forward. Just do less and really be selective. I'll mention Overstock. Excuse me. This one got parabolic to the downside. The slope just really extended. You could see that, we had this move down and there and then there and then there, boom, boom, boom. Just, this was a really expensive stock. I remember trading this with much higher levels. So then I'm looking for some sort of reversal pattern. Even though I know that the CEO sold 500,000 shares above 13 last couple of days, yes. But at the same time, that's yesterday's news. And if I see this thing starting to slow down, then this could be some panic selling involved here, and then we could get a decent bounce. So let's look at Overstock here on a 5-er. We could see up. So this was an anomaly on a 5-minute that didn't hold. I didn't see this one. I started looking at it here. This candle was starting to look like an anomaly, right? It was at this point where it was going to close above 11. My anomaly indicator, like this one here, that shows that this is an anomaly. This little dot here, and then I also have a label that comes alive here. It was showing me that this could potentially be an anomaly, but the candle wasn't closed yet. So I was watching it here, put a little feeler on, and then when it didn't want to close as a hammer, it closed near the low of the candle on a 5-minute. I scaled out. I scaled out here thinking that it closed weak and probably not ready to bounce. So this was, I think, a tiny loss here, maybe a quarter of an hour. Had this thing closed like a hammer, like this bar, I would have been looking to add on a break of the high and then potentially back up to VWAP, but it didn't. So we had a weak bar on volume, and the buyers couldn't make this close near the high of the bar. And then you had an inside green bar and then inside bar again, and then what do we got? Another fiver going down. So weakness, even though we had an anomaly and a hammer here, we got an inside bar. It was the only thing that the bulls could put together, and then down again. This one looked like it was going to be a bottoming tail hammer type of candle, but instead it closed weak on volume, right? So two signs here, in addition to the trend down, that there isn't a whole lot of buying power here. You get an inside candle right here, another inside smaller candle here, and then the next one again to the downside. So, you know, if I'm looking to trade this and find spots to get long, well, I could nibble on it here, but I've got lots of clues telling me, get out. It's not time yet. I can't be stubborn. Take your small loss. Your first loss is your best loss, right? And then if not, you know, if you take your first loss and if you react to what you're seeing, you give up on some upside if you're wrong and it goes up without you, oh well. But if you get out at the right time, if you get out early, then you give yourself the opportunity to try it again, because there's no question that this thing is extended down. I mean, look at this thing, right? It's definitely extended down. Anybody who's buying this dip and adding, add, they're going to capitulate at some point. And if you look at the volume bars here, wherever, you know, you have the slope and the parabolic down, and then the slope is really increasing and very steep, and then the volume comes in, you know that's got to come to an end. But at the same time, it doesn't have to. It could just sit tight, go sideways, or even go lower, right? Because volume came in here, volume came in here also, right? It doesn't mean it's the end. It's just a try. If it doesn't work, get out. And that's kind of what I did here. So got a feeler, get out. Feeler, get out. And then here, finally, this felt like it. The candle closed pretty good. Let's see if we can zoom in so you guys can see the executions a little better. Bam, right there. So try it, get out, try it here. And then that's the inside candle on the 5 that went lower. Get out, right? See you later. And then here, this one finally holds on volume, gives that hammer signal, and then that's when I get in. Got in here. Still very cognizant of the fact that the slope is very steep, trend is down. This is a very difficult setup. I don't recommend this for beginning traders because it takes a lot of discipline. If you're not getting out here, then you could be in a lot of trouble. There's no hesitation. If I hesitate here, I'm toast, right? I'm toast, because if I don't get out and take a small loss, then I'm going to get out at the worst price. And if I get out at the worst price, then chances are I'm going to, you know, mess it up. I'm going to probably get out down here and then buy back up here and then, you know, get out down here and just keep doing the wrong thing. So not recommended for beginning traders. You don't want to catch falling knives. I do have this set up with parabolic slope, really steep, and then volume coming in. I will try it. And then especially if it coincides with the 5-minute anomaly, preferably near a whole figure, dollar figure, I will try it. But again, not an easy setup. Even when you get it right, it's not going to be a home run. And then if you get it wrong, it could really mess your psyche up. So just be careful with this one. But again, I was able to scale out of that. And then what I do here, let me think. Yeah, so I got a third here, and then the last piece here. And then, yeah, so then we had, you know, it looked like it might be curling up again, tried it, but really tight stop. And then out. You could see, I think I was the guy that made this candle come down. And then, you know, whenever I finally did get out, it bounces back up that 10 cents, but I don't care. What am I going to do? When I got to get out, I got to get out. And then eventually it just did nothing. So that's my thinking here. I want to make sure that whenever I try it, I want to get out if it's not working. It's very easy to get caught up. And then that's it. So these 5-minute anomalies, these 5-minute topping tail, bottoming tail, they've been working well for me. And I'll mention BYND. Oh yeah, so you could see like I've got this little bar here that shows whenever I do have a 5-minute anomaly. It's after hours, so it's probably meaningless, but yeah, it's right here, this candle. It's telling me anomaly. I don't pay attention to it after hours, but this just helps me spot it here a little bit better whenever it does come up, not just a dot. What do I want to mention? Yeah, BYND. So let's get rid of this. Ox we grew here yesterday. So I was in this from here. Day one, I don't remember if I traded it. Did nothing. Day two, did really well on this day. Did really well on this day. And this day, I remember thinking, that's funny. As this bar was forming on a daily, by midday we had done more volume than the previous day, and the body was much smaller. At that point, we're like at 81, 82, and the body was a third or half the size of the previous candle, but the volume had already exceeded the previous day's volume, and it was only half. It was only midday, so it was telling me that the smart money's selling into that move, right? Well, the next day it just gapped and crapped, and it's been weak since. So I haven't done anything since then. I remember this day getting out of my longs, and then I did some options plays here that worked out well because the implied vol was around 200. Sold some theta, and that worked out well. And then I hadn't done anything else since. I did not expect this thing to come back up and test highs. I thought, once this is toast, it's toast. But you just have to make sure that you don't short all-time highs. There are a few people in the firm that didn't do too well today because they were trying to pick a top in this. I'm not a fan of shorting all-time highs. You want to see my BYND executions? That's my BYND executions. I didn't do anything in it all day. I could have chased. I could have done stuff. I could have had a long setup. I was looking at it here when it was flagging, but I just felt that it's an avoid for me. I don't want to short it, and I just wasn't confident about a long setup. So what ended up happening here is, you just get this really sharp move up and then back down. And then, this move down is just not giving any room for anyone to get out. If you're stuck long, if you're short, if you're looking for a bounce, not happening until it does, and then you don't want it. But the reason I'll mention this today is I want to go over something. Let's go over this. All right, good. So that's what I'm looking at. And let's look at that, and let's look at that. So I basically want to get rid of the candlesticks and all that. And I'm just looking at volume profiles since this thing started trading, since its IPO. Okay. Well, the first two things that jump out at me are these massive volume nodes, right? This is a massive volume node. It's holding. Look at where the price is, right here. We are way up here. Okay. The longs are not in trouble. The longs are doing okay. They are basically saying, I'm happy. There's nobody to really get in the way of this thing going up. Did it get parabolic? Yes. Look at this. It definitely got parabolic. Temporary top. Could turn into a bigger top, but I don't know. For now, it's just temporary. And then it fails here. What I'm trying to say is these volume nodes are telling me that the longs are not under pressure. The shorts, whoever is short, is under pressure. So why would I want to pick a top in something like this? All right, why? Can it come down here and get below and be, one of those fantastic tops that, becomes a fader, and, what's that, JMIA, that IPO that just fell out of bed and just goes to zero? Yeah, this can be one of those, but it's less likely to happen because it's way up here above all this volume. So this volume node here is likely what traded today. If we look at today's action, that's what traded today. And that could be a temporary thing to trade against. If I must trade short on something, I want to make sure it doesn't get back above this volume, because if it gets above here, guess what? Even these guys were stuck long. are no longer unhappy. They're actually doing all right. So there's nobody to really be a ceiling and provide resistance, provide a ceiling for the stock looking to sell shares, right? Let's look at something else real quick. I'm a little curious to see how Uber looks. Okay, so same thing with Uber, but let's see how Uber looks right there. You could see that Uber is what? We're trading down here in the middle of the range since its IPO. All right, we're in no man's land. You have a lot of people stuck from day one when the opening price is over here, right? They're probably waiting for a bounce and they have orders out to sell. They just want to break even or lose a little bit. We're going to have to work through that. If we're going to get higher, we're probably going to come back and chip away at these prices over and over and over. Once we clear 45, get out if you're short. This is not going to be a short anymore. But for now, there's this overhead supply that's acting as a ceiling. There's also this support. Everybody who's shorted down here is stuck. Everybody who's long is doing okay. So this to me looks like a chop, right? 45 to 36 is the range. And we'll probably be chopping around here for a while. So I look at this, I care about volume, I care about the psychology. I try to help this volume profile help me figure out who's stuck and who's underwater. Hopefully that's helpful. And that's it. I think that's all I got. Earnings kind of winding down, a few names here and there. Hopefully we get a couple of weeks of some decent action, and that's it. Thanks for watching. Give us that thumbs up. If you're not following us, I don't know what's the matter with you. Give us that follow and give us a like. Thanks everyone. Mike Katz.